If you can't sell free, you shouldn't be in business. There's so many ways that you can build wealth. I'd rather have 5 than 50 that I manage, that I actually own. I think AI will change the game.
What are the 3 or 4 things that are essential if you want to succeed in 2025? Braydon Ross is Mr. Airbnb. From starting at rent to rent to working with developers across the globe to market and manage hundreds of properties. Here are his thoughts on regulation, essential tech, and why building a personal brand can take your business to the next level. Braydon also shares how tequila helped him build a huge following on social media. Braydon, you've taught thousands of students. What are the top traits that you see in hosts who make it big in the world of short-term rentals?
Yeah, it's a loaded question, but I think it's consistent across all businesses. And thank you for having me on your podcast. It was fantastic meeting you in England just this last weekend. And you're obviously well connected in the space. You've had some heavy hitters in that room for the dinners and whatnot. So shout out to you guys for putting that on. To answer your question, yeah, I mean, like my journey started 8 years ago. And it was one of those things where if you had started Airbnb and doing that 2017, 2018, 2019, those what I feel like were the golden years. Like you could list anything and it felt like money was just pouring in. It's gotten a lot harder now. So the biggest thing is knowing how to understand what it is that you're selling and stand out, because what happens with the management side of things and co-hosting is anybody can do it. Meaning when you have too much low barrier to entry, like Airbnb in a way, everybody has a home and a room. Most people do, not everybody. Unfortunately, but the ones that stand out are able to create a compelling offer. But this is a very, networking type of business where you go to these dinners that you held, for example, and people will ask me, like, how do you land these deals abroad when you've never been there? Like we launched in Seoul, South Korea last year. I've never been there. It's doing the work over years and years and years, but also showing what you've done and becoming sort of this lighthouse, having people come to you. And that's why social media is so important. So the ones that are consistent, most of them that I've recorded testimonials with that have hit, $1 to $5 million a year in bookings now and have 100 plus units or 50 to 100 units. There's multiple, and I could shout a few out right now if you want to fact check them. One's Alan with House PR in Puerto Rico. They became one of the biggest. On his interview, he got 20 no's. And then on his 21st, or the 19th or 20th, whatever it was, he reached out to a realtor. And instead of him pitching and trying to get his rental arbitrage, he had a realtor help him do that. So it created this forefront. When you create a barrier to people being able to get to you, your time is more valuable and you seem more professional as well. And so, yeah, it's the ones that stay consistent. But it's hard for a lot of people to understand how much work it takes to be an entrepreneur. You almost have to be a psycho to be an entrepreneur in a way. So, so Alan's one of them. Another one actually is out of Calgary, Canada, Alberta, that I'm friends with as well. And his name is Braydon. He owns a company called Nomadics. They scaled up to 80 to 100 units. They own now like 30% of their portfolio. It's taken them 5 years to do that. I actually have one in London as well. I could go on and on. But I don't focus so much. Like I did a lot of the teaching in the early days, like 2018 and 2019. And then I actually focused on more of how do I scale this business with entire buildings? And we'll get into that later. So it's consistency and really just being a little bit of a psycho to be an entrepreneur.
I would definitely agree with the psycho, but yeah, people don't realize that this is a 24 hours a day thing. You never really stop when you start a business. So when people are starting out and they come to you for the first time, what are the most common questions that they have at the beginning of their journeys?
Yeah, some people don't know what rental arbitrage is, even though it's 2025. How could I possibly make money using somebody else's property without even putting any of my own money up front? Co-hosting, managing, which is an incredible opportunity. But again, you have to prove value first. So these are the biggest questions is, how do I set this up? How do I get owners to trust me if I've never done it myself? How do I build that credibility, right? Any service-based business, one of my favorite things to do is land my first 3 clients, offer it for free, make sure I target those clients to know that they have connections and some sort of value that they can also provide back, because I'm going to try and prove and build that trust with them. And all I ask for is after 30 days, if they're open to giving me a testimonial and a referral, I would love to work with them, and I'll grandfather them into a better rate. And doing this, it works incredibly well. If you can't sell free, you shouldn't be in business.
I think that's it. Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Yeah. Just to go back to the rental arbitrage side of things, there will be people out there who don't really know what it is, and of course they will think that if they want to run a successful short-term rentals business, they have to own the properties. Just explain to us what it is and how potentially you can scale and build a business without actually owning any properties in the space.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. There's been, let's go back to students that are now 5 to 7 years later with 200 to 400 rental arbitrage units in their portfolio that are doing $1 million a month. But, with regulations coming in, that's really taken some of the portfolio back. So they're realizing I'd rather have less with more output than more with less output. It's a headache. And I keep referring over to different things, but the rental arbitrage space, some people will refer to it as master leasing as well. When I started, and this is how I'll get into it, is I bought my first property. I didn't rental arbitrage it. I didn't manage it. I was 20 years old. I got it when I was 21, and I listed it in July of 2017. I thought, how the heck do I get another property? I have no more money left. I'm like just out of school. I'm trying to make this thing work. And I was addicted to traveling. Like, I can make money online while my property's making money. That was in Calgary. And went on Rent Faster, which would be where we can rent flats, as you guys would call them. And I started calling owners saying, hey, I'd love to rent your place, meet with them in person, but I would pitch them in person. I got a yes right away. I didn't know what this was called. I knew nothing about real estate other than the fact that this is working. I'm making 3 times more of my rents, and I'm a super host, and it's booked like 95% of the year. I made over $50,000 out of that first unit in the first year. My condo should have only done $18,000 a year in long-term rents. So it was unbelievable. Those were the golden years, as I said. And I was making double now. I convinced this owner that let me arbitrage this thing. And so in arbitrage, just so anybody, there's arbitrage in everything. The biggest platforms in the world essentially arbitrage. They kind of own nothing. Airbnb is essentially arbitraging, using other people's properties, and they're the middleman. Uber's arbitraging, Facebook's arbitraging, media space. So what you do, you're renting someone else's property with their permission, which was my first mistake, which lost me my second deal. I got permission, but I didn't read the bylaws. And in most A cities now, these major cities are starting to crack down, meaning it has to be your principal residence, or you can't do it in certain areas. So unless you have something in your lease agreement, which we could consider a lease addendum, not financial or not legal advice as well. Always consult a lawyer. But you'd have your master lease. Your company would be on the master lease, your LLC, your incorporated company. And then you'd have your addendum, which just states, I, the owner, am giving James permission to short-term rent my property on any homestay sites that he wishes to. And so that's what it is. You're renting someone else's property, analyzing it in hopes to make a profit. And it's a good way to grow, but in my opinion, in 2025, it isn't the best way to grow. There's other ways to grow. And I want to talk high level. I think everybody loves to talk about arbitrage. They love to talk about co-hosting. But where I'm at now, almost a decade into this, I think people should understand how to actually build wealth and own property and accelerate that through creative financing, such as seller financing or VTBs and things like that, which is where it really gets interesting.
You do see some arbitrage and rent-to-rent models where they say you have to guarantee the rental income for the owner of the property. Now, I always look at that and think, God, that would be a worry. What if the pandemic hits, or what if something bad happens and you can't afford the rent? What if there's a flood? It could be anything, and you might be on the hook for a lot of rental income that you've got to pay the owner. So, is that the biggest risk of this kind of idea and this way forward for people who want to get involved in short-term rentals?
It's one of them, but it should be drawn up in your agreement that one of the major companies, I won't name them, saved their butts because their lawyers had put in their agreements that if the Dow Jones were to hit below a certain level, or a pandemic were to happen, or a force majeure that was out of our control, we don't owe you rents. Another company that was worth 9 figures or in that mark went out of business because they were over leveraged and they had to pay the rent, which they couldn't do during the C word, COVID. So it is one of the major risks. I think the biggest risk right now is the government imposing all these regulations. You have zero control over that. if you don't know what you're doing, you don't spend the money on a lawyer who can actually keep you protected and draft. And a lot of these guys are just starting a business. They don't have $5,000 to go spend on proper contracts. So they are winging it, right? GPT is a lot of people's friend, but it's a huge risk right now. And you have to do your due diligence. A couple of the softwares I use, of course, is AirDNA. I was on their podcast too. Very good to see kind of what's the insights are, but I cross compare it. I use Price Labs. I use AirDNA. I even use Airbitix. If you're in the US, you can use Mashvisor. And one of the new ones and shout out to them, I have no affiliation, is bnbcalc.com. Instead of a static pro forma, it's pulling from AirDNA and Airbitix, and it allows you to actually see your ROE, your cap rate, NOI, basically your investor score on any property within seconds. And it's like $40 a month. So for pounds, it's like 20 pounds a month. So your biggest concerns are going to be regulations. It's going to be what you said, like underestimating what you're going to earn and think you're going to make all this money, and now you're hooped, right? Imagine you go get 10 properties and you thought it was going to work. A lot of people are using 0% credit cards, which is a whole other topic. They're not using their own money.
Goodness me. Frightening. You mentioned before as well that the arbitrage model is not necessarily what you do today. So how has your thinking switched recently?
Yeah, arbitrage was great when I kind of figured it out. It was just me and a couple other guys at the very forefront of teaching. So I was like, this is a great model. I love to teach it. I don't feel really right teaching what arbitrage is in 2025. It's like, I'd rather give that information for free. Look at Alex Hormozy. He works with companies that get to 3 million or 1 million EBITDA per year, and then they look at working with them. And that's where I'm at now. Like, give all your good stuff away for free, like you do, actually. You give a lot of your stuff away, not all of it, away for free.
Pretty much everything.
You understand that model. But what you've built now is people are starting to respect you. So you can go in your phone and you can bring people together at the highest levels. So not many people are willing to wait that long, though. They want money now. They want money today. But if you can hold out, yeah, it's interesting. So arbitrage wouldn't be my number one model. If I had to start today and I had no money, it definitely would be the co-hosting model. And what I kind of coined this term is called hybrid B&B, which means, and you're going to need licenses in certain areas, there's a high season and low season in most markets. In high season, when you're making the most money, have the owner STR rent that property. You can help run it, give their first 30 to 90 days for free in lieu of just simply giving a testimonial or referral that will then later convert into a fee. You're usually taking 25 to 30%. You could even hook them up at 15 to 20% for full service. Now, what you don't want to do is guarantee rents, especially if you're new. So the owner is trusting you for free, so you can prove to them that this works. Start it in high season, so you're an all-star out of the gates. You don't want to start this in slow season. The next thing is the owner is going to want to know, can I make money in slow season? Of course, you can't guarantee STR. So you need to look at what the rents are, and you need to figure out how much money the owner needs to make each month. Once they can tell you what their monthly expenses are, if the rent long-term can cover what you need to make in slow season, you can then help the owner do midterm rentals for 3 to 6 months to get you through that slow season by connecting with corporate housing companies or even hospitals or insurance companies that then can place expats, traveling nurses, and insurance claims. So I mean,
that goes back to knowing your ideal guest, isn't it? I mean, they're great direct booking strategies, really. If you know that your rental is perfect for, tradespeople and, like a couple of my rentals are near to an enterprise zone, get in touch with those companies, because you might find that they want to save 15, 20% commission on Airbnb-booking.com.
Yeah. So it's a play, but you also need licensing. If you're going to handle leases and whatnot, you're going to need a short-term real estate property management license in most areas. It's a gray zone in many areas now for midterm, but I would just recommend stay compliant. That's how I lost my second deal. So what happened was I got the first arbitrage. First one was I owned. Second one was arbitrage. I checked the little ticky box that says I read all the bylaws, HOA rules, and it said no Airbnbs. I get a call from the owner like 3 months later, and they said the building is going to be fining you like $200 per check-in because the guests keep going to the front desk. I said, what do you mean? So they don't allow Airbnbs. I didn't know this, but you had signed off. So I lost my deposit. I lost my profits, but it was a lesson well learned. In my opinion, I just created this thing on this trip here, and I thought, how much money have I had to lose to make X amount more? And what I found across the board for entrepreneurs, none of them ever won all the time. You have to lose more than you win. And so I call it the 110 rule. If you want to make $10,000, you have to give up and lose $1,000 100,000, 10, and if you want to make $1 million, it's $100,000. That's my opinion. That's what I've had to go through myself. So I'm talking from experience.
There is a lot of sense there, that's for sure. And yeah, I mean, you find it here in the UK. There's a lot of mortgage lenders, for example, who will not allow properties to be let out. There'll be some developments that won't allow, if it's in a block of flats, often they won't allow short-term rentals, for benefit of other residents and all that kind of thing. So yeah, you need to really, I don't know, look at all the terms and conditions and read them. It's easy to tick it, isn't it? And we all do it. HostHub is a top-rated property management platform for short-term rentals. HostHub can help you increase revenue, improve operations, and ultimately save you time and money. HostHub has everything you need to manage your properties effortlessly and reliably. It will sync rates and availability across all the channels where your properties are listed, and it includes tools like automated messaging, team management, and expenses. It also includes smart pricing integration, task and cleaning management, and automated door locks. HostHub provides a zero double booking guarantee, 24/7 support with an average response time below 3 minutes, and a fresh and friendly interface that is easy to learn and use. And right now, HostHub is offering a 14-day free trial to any host or property manager who would like to try the platform. Head to hosthub.com/HCH for further details. In terms of rookie mistakes, then I guess that's a rookie mistake, that the terms and conditions. Are there any other things that you see over and over, especially with new hosts getting involved?
Yeah, they're excited. And when you get excited, your blinders, you're like this, your tunnel vision. So you're not looking left and right. It's why it's important to go to dinners like you hosted, if you're invited, of course. There's different levels to that. But it doesn't matter. Get yourself around hosts. The amount of time and money you'll save just asking these questions to somebody who's been through it, it's unbelievable. You got to get your ego out of the way. That was one of my problems in the beginning. I thought I knew everything. It's all just a natural part. This is not a new story. You've heard this a million times by other entrepreneurs. But if you're already replicating what works, just do it better. Good artists copy, great artists steal. I think it was Picasso. I might be wrong. But not saying steal people's ideas completely, but what I do whenever I go to a market, I'll go on AirDNA, I'll look at revenue, filter out by 20 plus reviews. I'll take a look at what is the best ROI per room type. I'll look at my RevPAR. But most importantly, who's making the most money and how much do those properties cost? What's the lowest amount of money I could spend to make the highest amount? I usually try not to touch properties that don't make 6 figures a year now because it becomes a headache. I'd rather have less than more properties, and it's too problematic. But there's so many ways that people think that they need money to get started with this. Now, if I was to start from zero, I would 100% just go on Facebook Marketplace, go on my local, like in the US, it's Zillow. And there's so many platforms where you can connect directly to the owner. You bypass the property management. And yeah, it's going to take some cold calling. It's going to take some outreach. You can go on onlinejobs.ph. It's a Filipino VA website, and hire a VA that does outreach for you. But all you need is 3 clients to vouch for you, 3 clients to start making some money. Sure, have a job, but in the meantime, run some Airbnbs. Once you've built enough credibility, you can get creative. I mean, you could do syndicates with friends. I'm not talking funds because that's regulated, but syndicates. You can do seller financing where you don't have to go to the bank and qualify for a mortgage. Like you said, mortgage fraud. People are saying it's my principal home when it's not. You're breaking the rules. Seller finance allows you to buy the property, get the owner to finance you, call it 5 to 8%, maybe 10% down instead of 20, which a rental would need. And you're off to the races. But you could get friends to use that money you manage, take a lesser management fee, and then ask for equity. These are the things that I'm doing now. In lieu, let's be more aligned. At 2-3 years, what does it look like to make a profit? What if we could sell this at a 20% profit for turnkey B&B, like a turnkey B&B where I'm not only managing, I might make 15% instead of 30, but instead of taking 30, I ask for 15% equity. I'll take a 1% acquisition or origination fee. So if it's 500 grand, 1% on that, you're still getting paid up front for finding it and underwriting it and looking at the data. And then your friends are funding it. And then you don't have to go to the bank. You build the equity, you pull equity out at year 3 or 5 when the balloon payments due. And now everybody gets paid off, and now the bank's riding the loan. There's so many ways that you can build wealth. And that's what I mean. Today, if I had to start over, you don't have the credibility to ask friends for money. But co-hosting is your cheapest way. Once you have those results, you can show your friends and start getting into networking events. Start owning the properties. I'd rather have 5 than 50 that I manage, that I actually own.
Makes a lot of sense. You mentioned they're working with developers, so you help developers sell and market buildings using STR. So what's your approach when you get a new property to making it irresistible?
Yeah, I've spent almost a decade building a brand. So when I go to a developer, like most influencers will say, pay me 5, 10 grand for a post. I don't do that. I give them all the value up front for free. I say I have a hyper niche community, one of the largest in the world for personal brands in the Airbnb space. So I already have people that are interested in buying your property, units in the property. And know what? We'll actually do a full audit of this. I'm trying to get the full management rights to the whole building, which I've done now. Actually, got to go to Tulum next week. So there's like a huge building there. We'll manage the units for all owners that want our services. But instead of getting 83 units, which is what this building has across the world, I can get 83 units in one building. Even if 50 of them decide to use us, I'm way more vertically integrated. I have economies of scale. I have cheaper cleaning costs in Mexico versus Canada or the United States. So my margins are so much higher, and I can hire people at way higher or way less rates and get way more staff to create a better experience. So what I'm doing as my competitive advantage is I'm like, let me put you in front of my audience. Just like Host Planet, you could go and land these big deals because you have that audience. They would otherwise have to pay, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars in ads and try to target these people when it's already there and it's a trusted brand. So what I'm doing now is instead of just managing, I'm going, I really understand this market. What if I could create almost an agency out of this? Think of Alex Hormozi's gym launch, but for developers. Call it developer launch. It's not what it's actually called, but could work. But I'm focusing on STR. 99% of these realtors I talk to have no idea how to underwrite or analyze a short-term rental because the variable income, the 50th, 75th, 90th, they have no idea. So they just say, hey, yeah, you're going to make all this money, but they're lying out their asses essentially just to make the close. I hate that. And so I'll vet the project. When we build trust, I will then go and do like a phase one, I call it, 90-day approach to prove that the marketing works. I'll ask for a retainer plus ad spend. And even before I do that, I'll actually promote their project if I like it and not ask them for anything. And then they're like, oh, this is awesome. But I asked them for the management contract. Then from there, a lot of regulations on the sales team, but we'll actually look for some of the top real estate groups and they'll handle the sales. So we have 3 pillars: marketing, sales, management. Now, the only pillar that I'm really now wanting to focus on that I'm still learning is actually the building component. So we can have the entire vertical. So build, market, sell, manage, retain, and then just get a wait list going for the next one. So yeah, 8 years in this business didn't happen overnight. And I feel like I'm just starting. I just got my PhD and now I'm stepping out of school. So that's what I'm doing with developers.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I like, this, I think going above and beyond, I think always providing that value to the people that you're working with and just giving stuff away, it builds the trust, right? I mean, we definitely see that with Host Planet as well. If you want to build relationships, give it away for free, make it free and make it so good that people can't believe it's free. You're going to go quite a long way. So the students that you've worked with, between them, they've hit over $100 million in bookings. At what point in your journey did you think, I'm onto something here?
When I kind of backed off from coaching, I thought it was great that I could prove that arbitrage and co-hosting worked. But in the golden years, like I said, 2019, 2018, before it blew up, it still works. It's just harder. It was when I was like, why aren't hotels on Airbnb? And I thought, okay, what the heck do hotels use as a PMS? Do they even use a PMS? Like, how does that work? There's no playbook. There's no YouTube channels. But I thought, what if I could get hotels connected onto the Airbnb platform? And that was 2019. A guy I knew basically said, I own a hotel. I had started building the Mr. Airbnb brand. And I thought, hey, what if I could actually just fill your bookings? I'm not going to take anything from booking.com, Expedia, none of that. But what if I could optimize an Airbnb profile, find a way to configure the Airbnb platform, which just simply didn't work at the time. Why? Because when you have a listing versus a hotel room, like I'm sitting on a oceanfront, whatever queen bedroom, there might be 50 of these in this hotel. Airbnb's calendar only opens up per unit. So you have to configure it so that it realizes how many units are still left. And Airbnb didn't configure that way like Expedia did. And so after many hours of me just playing around in the back office and figuring this out, I realized hotels could scale on the Airbnb platform because they don't charge a cleaning fee. So that's also a huge plus. So when I marketed it, I would put no cleaning fee, and I would also have 4 of the best pictures, like a grid. And then in the middle, I'd have Superhost badge and then no cleaning fee as well. Please don't take all this, whoever's listening. But what that allowed me to do, I realized that in countries like Mexico and Dominican Republic, cleaning is so cheap. I could get a villa clean for $40. You can bake the cleaning fee into the management fee, and it'll hide it and spread it across the reservation on Airbnb. So that's one way to do it. Or you just simply mark it up, or you just don't even charge them for that extra fee. By charging no cleaning fee, and then when Airbnb started to introduce the host-only fee, and you can mark up on the PMS through that channel marker 15%, you now really are competing with a hotel model where all they see is the nightly rate and the tax, if applicable. And so I realized that if I could get 20%, even 15% on 50 units in one building that I don't even ever have to clean, I don't ever have to do maintenance, the front desk checks them in. Well, that's exactly what happened. So it was like money, 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 money. And it was just crazy. And I'm like, I think I have something here. And so I thought, why can't I do this with resorts? What if I were to be the first, because I've seen Wyndham starting to maybe do this a little bit, start putting entire resorts in Mexico, luxury, 5 stars, 5 diamonds. Some of them were 5 diamonds, not all of them, but they were all 5 stars and 4. We never went to 3. But what if I could do that with 3,000-4,000 properties, units, and fill the void? Well, that would be cool. I mean, that's a business model that's infinitely scalable. And we actually ended up landing, and I don't talk about this a lot anymore because I've pivoted because COVID was a shit show. But I put 2 years of work into this with another person, and we got the deals. We actually ended up landing a huge deal with 3,000-4,000 units with one of the biggest resorts in Mexico. Problem is you have massive board meetings. There's like 1 million people that work in there. And people go to a resort to stay for a week, not a day. So that was an issue. People go to a resort to have all-inclusive, not all-inclusive. So that was an issue. And they also didn't have the Airbnb host-only fee implemented at that time in 2020. So that was also a problem. You could see the resort, and you didn't want to pay the 14.2%. So I learned all these lessons, and then COVID hit. Nobody could go to hotels. And that whole plan just basically was like, okay, maybe we should pivot. But yeah, 8 years in now, my focus is developers. My focus is owning the asset, helping people also own the assets. I only have 2 avatars. It's private clients. We help them build their portfolio. And then it's developers. That's it.
What do you think the future of this industry looks like? And how do you think AI is going to impact this space?
I think Chesky was already talking about how AI, Brian Chesky, the CEO, for those wondering, of Airbnb and co-founder, AI is going to be crucial. I think it's going to be so intelligent that it'll know exactly where you want to stay, how you want to stay, who you're going to stay with, foods you like to eat. And these big companies are going to eat it up. So these little companies that are in this space now, I think we have 2 to 3 years runway, like we did with arbitrage, where you're part of the first herd of people, where these little companies could get acquired. In fact, I was actually just with a buddy of mine in London that you met. He has a company like that. They're implementing AI. I think AI will change the game. There'll be agents. There won't be people. People will still want at that highest level real people serving them. It's just going to make companies more money, more efficient, more profitable, people happier. But the industry, the top 10% are always going to stay on top. I think if you're buying, not in all markets, but you buy these little studios and whatnot, they're flooded in most markets. You need to have something that sleeps more people, that doesn't replicate a hotel room, because hotels have location, concierge, amenities. They can change rooms. They have so many advantages over an Airbnb. So if you want to win, you got to create an experience in 2025.
Have you got a large holiday property and want more direct bookings? GroupAccommodation.com connects you with guests who are searching for big cottages, country manors, and even castles. For a low annual fee, you'll enjoy commission-free bookings, direct contact with guests, a custom listing page, and access to powerful owner tools, all while keeping 100% of your profits. Join thousands of hosts making the most of their large holiday rentals. Head to groupaccommodation.com today and start welcoming more direct bookings. What are the trends that you've been seeing this year that you think hosts and property managers need to be aware of?
The trends, and positive and negative. I mean, it's a positive and a negative. The regulations are shutting people down, so they're not doing their due diligence on that. But the trends are actually like, let's put a monopoly board in the back, and like even ours, we we'll put like more games. We'll put an in-house gym. We'll have the hot tubs, things like that. So, like I said, it's really just based on the experience, and you do make so much more money. But if you're managing for somebody else, what I find the problem is the owners are so unsure that they're even going to make enough money that if you don't, what I call design your client from the beginning, meaning they're buying the property, they're allocating a budget, and then they're going to Airbnb, catching them off guard in the middle of wanting to long-term rent, but convincing them the STR, they don't want to drop $20,000, $30,000 or quid to do that. So it can be difficult. So you really got to get in with real estate agents, and that's your key to actually scaling, is partnering with real estate agents or collaborating with them, in other words, and being their backbone to helping them sell more properties. And so you can help underwrite and analyze and find properties that they can sell to their clients, and you manage it for them. You're designing the client from the ground up. So that's one of the biggest struggles today is you're getting saturation. People aren't making enough money. Airbnb is losing market share in terms of STRs because cities, regulate.
If you were setting up a rental tomorrow,
what
are the amenities? What would the property look like, and what would the guest experience be like? What are the 3 or 4 things that are essential if you want to succeed in 2025?
For me, it's hot tub as a Canadian. Hot tub. Like a games room. Sleeping more people. So for SEO purposes, if it's a 2-bedroom, you want to sleep 6. If it's a 3-bedroom, sleep 8. I like to have a pull-out couch, so that way people searching for more are willing to share that cost without going too cheap. I can raise my price, and I show up in those search results, getting more views, more clicks, and more conversions, so I rank better. So it's being able to sleep more people. And I use trundle beds in a lot of mine, so 2 single beds, one will come out, and that helps. So it'd be like a games room, hot tub, and then sleeping more people.
Love it. Makes a lot of sense. Also, for people starting out, what are the tools and the tech stacks which you think are essential for people if they were starting tomorrow?
1 to 3 properties. You can be on a simple PMS system, but starting out right would be great. Your big ones are obviously Guesty and HostAway, Hospitable. There's one in Canada. It's very basic, but it's called IGMS. So as a Canadian, I would get people to just sign up on there. It's like $20. You're up and running per listing. It's plug and play. So you need a PMS. If you want to have your properties on Vrbo, Expedia, HomeAway, even Google Vacation Rentals, which is being slept on now, people need to look at that. PMS. Number 2 is going to be your RMS, or in other words, dynamic pricing. So revenue management system. Price Labs, most people use. So I'd recommend Price Labs. Guest experience. A friend of mine created Link-based. His name is Shivan. So if you want to do upsells, you want to have your guidebooks, you want it to connect with your front door lock, you want it to do guest identification verifications, rental agreement signing, as well as deposits, which you can keep most of it, then Link-based is going to be one of them. And then I would say automating your locks. Schlag and Code is what most people use for the lock. Noise and smoke monitors. They use Minute, most people, MINUT, at least in North America. And then I recommend having a Ring camera or any front door camera. We could go on and on about the tech stack. At a very basic level, you need your PMS, your pricing, your guest experience app, and then your automated check-in. But at a high level, and referencing actual like software, a SaaS in the space, go high level. Go high level allows you to automate a lot of your back-end techs, automated. Like I just created an AI agent yesterday in 5 minutes. Anybody can call it. My guest can call it, and it'll answer the questions and then get them and reroute them to a person. Very easy. So go high level. You can look into that more.
Great tips there, and a load of brilliant shout outs. We should talk just a little bit about your brand as well, your image. Obviously, a lot of people know you from Instagram, where you've got the Mr. Airbnb handle somehow. How important is it building a personal brand in this industry?
you can do it without it, which is crazy. And I think a lot of people love that. Building a personal brand isn't for everybody, as contrary as that. If Gary Vee is in the room, he'd slap me across the face. Is it necessary? It's not necessary. Is it worth it? 10,000%. If you do good work and you build a brand that's reputable, help enough people, yes, it's worth it. It's gotten me in more rooms. We're probably on the podcast because I have a brand, to be honest with you. It's like I can promote it, you can promote me, and it gets you in those rooms. And so I do not regret it. I've been able to work with some very high level influencers, entrepreneurs in the space at a very young age. And it's been fantastic. Is it tough to be Mr. Airbnb? And like, this is another component to the question. Yes, because it really narrows me down to the industry. I'm not Mr. anything else. Mr. Airbnb versus a Braydon Ross, which could kind of stretch out. But I've gone all in. If you're not going all in on the one thing, why do you have a backup plan? You're already thinking of failure, right? So being that one guy that's doing the one thing, people are like, what do you do? I'm like, that's it. That's all I do. I just do Airbnb in multiple ways in the space. Building a personal brand is worth it. Should you do it? I recommend it in 2025. Yes, 100%. It's your new business card. It's going to take a lot of time. Good way to get ahead in your cheat codes is getting around people that have a brand already and being able to give them value for free, doing it for free. In fact, I actually worked with a celebrity who's, is toured with, like he's friends with Drake. He's friends with, they go on tour, they sell out stadiums. I'm not going to name who it is, but I basically gave value to them. Somebody very close to him built a Airbnb business after a 3-hour call. Didn't charge him anything. He invited me to his house out in LA when I was out there a couple of years back. And he's connected with obviously celebrities. And so having like somebody like that where you can just build that. Like I was just a young guy, 25, 26 at the time. I'm 30 now. And just helping people. But again, you can help people that have nothing. You can help people that have massive value. I think you should do both. But being affiliated with some of these people are really like, how the heck do you get these connections? Like, I don't stay at home and sit on my couch. I flew to London. I met you the other day. Like you have to spend the time and the money and really just getting around the right people. So I 100% would go all in on it, but don't just shill anything. Like, I'm so thankful that you're not doing that. And that's why I really wanted to emphasize, like, I don't want to be labeled as a coach. There's coaches teaching coaches how to coaching. And it's like, that's fine to an extent. If you've sold a business or you're a practitioner, I think you should coach as long as you really care about the end result, not just the money for the people. But it's a fast way to make money for a lot of these people versus like, I respect people that actually have built a business and are going through the trenches of doing that versus just putting information together. I know I was a coach myself, but I was early at it, and I could have easily made a lot more money coaching, like millions of dollars. And I chose to just do the alternative and give up that opportunity cost to actually build the real business behind the scenes. So when I come and give something of value and information, it's how do you build wealth by owning? How do you put a building on Airbnb? How do you do international business without going there? And so that's what I see as value, and teach their own. There's stepping stones to it all, but I think you should give your best stuff away for free, get people to a certain level, then work with them.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for giving stuff away for free and just doing favors for people. It's human nature. Eventually, you'll get the favor back. I think it's karma, definitely in the business world. What's a fact about Mr. Airbnb that people might be surprised about?
I love playing my guitar, and I love tequila.
Two facts.
I love my guitar and I love tequila. I love working out and I do count my calories, but I'm, right now I'm hanging out. I started a trend a couple of years ago. I know this is totally off topic, but instead of doing ice baths and rubbing my face with orange peels or banana peels, as the new trends going around right now, I decided I didn't know what to do during COVID because it was like my business was like the hotels, they couldn't open anymore. They were shutting down. So it was a good year. Every Friday, I'm like, you know what? Who knows if the world's going to keep going? What's happening? I'm going to do Tequila Friday. Every Friday, people that tag me on Instagram, I'm going to buy them tequila shots around the world. Some of them would just do it for free. It ended up becoming a trend where it wasn't like get shit-faced. It was go have a shot or two. I mean, teach their own. Go have a shot or two. It's Friday. I don't want you to. You don't have to tell me that you're counting all your calories and going in an ice bath and reading and getting up at 4 a.m. because that's not what works for everyone. Just tag me on Instagram if you want to have a tequila shot. And people were starting to tag me all over the world. And actually, that helped me gain more followers too. But also, that wasn't my intent. It was to do something off the cuff, off the book, something totally different. And it worked. In fact, I stopped doing that for a while. And who knows, maybe I'll bring it back at some point, but it's something different. And so I like my tequila and I love hanging out with my friends, playing guitar. It's one of my favorite things in the world.
Guitar and tequila. Love it. What a combination. All right then, Braydon, we've got a few questions to finish. Favorite brand in the STR industry and why?
Favorite brand? Mr. Airbnb. No, I'm kidding.
I usually do caveat that by saying, accept your own. And I didn't on this occasion, but anyway.
Yeah, you have to love yourself. So favorite brand, I would say Airbnb. I mean, it's created the pathway for my life and many others. I would say it's Airbnb. So that's
I think that's, a few people have mentioned Airbnb as a shout out before. And I usually say, well, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation without it. No. So yeah, it really is a phenomenal brand. Next question then, an individual in the STR space that you'd like to give a shout out to and why?
Brian Chesky. I know it sounds cliche, but it is true. If you listen to their beginning story, I think it was the first 2 years, they traveled to every host who joined the platform and met with them. And they had to do a relaunch like 3 times. They were air bed and breakfast. It used to be just the air mattress, right? In the middle of their apartment. And that just shows the amount of willpower these people have, these YouTube founders, these Uber founders. Like 2 years, most people would have quit. These guys had to relaunch how many times? But now look, the sharing economy, the amount of battles and fights they have to do. People complain, I don't want to give Airbnb my business. You know how much they're giving to you? For 3% of your host fee or 15, whatever you choose, they're giving you insurance, they're giving you clients, they're giving you the SaaS, they're giving you the platform. They're actually lining your pockets. So people can say whatever they want. Brian Chesky, shout out to him. That's a true Mr. Airbnb.
Very nicely put. Final question then. Number one piece of advice to someone out there who wants to scale.
I'm doing it right now because I think one of my biggest issues, and I think a lot of us, is delegation. How do you scale? You got to prove yourself. It's going to take time. I would say at least, around the 2-year mark, the 18 months to 24 months, you should have enough consistent income coming in. Like whatever it is that you want to make. Some people it's 5,000 a month. It's 10,000 a month, like enough to know that you're okay and you have recurring revenue. So it's predictable, but scaling comes from the amount of output you can have per action. And so what I like is like, how do I get with a developer that is at the forefront of building? He doesn't know what are the best ROI amenities in a building. How big should the rooms be? Where should they be located? So if I can work with one person that can give me 50 units, my output's a lot better. I'm not looking for the one owner that needs to make that second mortgage payment anymore. Did I start there? Of course I did. I had to clean my own toilets for the first 6 months to a year to save the $50 and then run to the other place but that's okay. But if you want to go quicker, you need to go after these bigger deals. And people think they're not worth it. Like, don't go make a fool of yourself. But you'll be amazed at how far you really, in your potential, what you could do. Because there's a lot of people out here that own $1 billion in real estate or $100 million hotel on the oceanfront. Somebody had to think of that idea, get connected enough, and do it. It's happening every day. You don't just get into those circles. The way to hack your way into those circles is either be really fucking good at what you do, be worth a lot of money, or simply affiliate yourselves where you can give enough free value to people at that level. And that's how I get in a lot of those rooms at the beginning was, how do I give enough free value to the people that have the highest leverage? And it just worked out. I never asked them for a damn thing. And to this day, I haven't. And it works.
Braydon Ross, Mr. Airbnb. Thank you for joining us on the Host Planet podcast. Been a real pleasure.
Yeah, good job, James. And everybody, shout out to James and Host Planet. The heavy hitters you had in the room the other night were amazing. And James is on to something.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Braydon Ross, aka Mr. Airbnb. Go check out his profile on Instagram. Not many people in our industry have built a personal brand as powerful as his, and fewer still have done it through Tequila Fridays. If you're looking for more free education, head to houseplanet.club, the fastest growing multimedia platform in the short-term rentals industry. We're proud to help hosts and property managers supercharge their businesses by sharing a wealth of free content. Head online to sign up for our newsletter, download our suite of ebooks, and listen to our podcast series. Until next time, happy hosting.